Welcome to Life Inside Hell. It's me, Brother Wild Bill, coming to you from inside the most dangerous prison in the Western Hemisphere by popular demand. I have had several people ask me for stories of my life. I was a professional killer on the outside from 2006 until 2010. I was arrested in 2010, serving a 46-year sentence for quintuple homicide. That's 5 of them. I've been in prison for 13 years and risen to the level of prison chaplain. So I'm going to tell a series of stories about things that happened to me when I was living in Costa Rica in 2006, 2005, 2006. The end of 2005 is when it started, up into about almost Christmas time in 2006, and so we'll start that story there. I was living in Costa Rica. I had escaped the United States as a fugitive. I landed in Costa Rica with a little less than $400,000 in cash from admittedly illicit things that I had going on in the States, but I landed as a fugitive, and so I started to live. I was living in this little town on the east coast, the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica called Puerto Viejo, and that means old port. It means old port, Puerto Viejo. So I lived there, and it was a really cool place. It's hard to describe the atmosphere, really. It was it's Afro-Caribe, so it's like Jamaica, and mostly black folks and indigenous Indians. And so, actually, the indigenous people, I think that's really strange. The indigenous people look Asian here, like really. You can tell that they came over from Asia because the indigenous people look like Filipino to me or something, or that's what, or at least what I think, are like Hawaiian even. That's what they look like. And so it's interesting that you're not like what indigenous people in the Indians look like. Apparently that's an offensive word now. You'll just have to forgive me. And so in the United States, indigenous people in the United States are tall, and these guys are short and have Asian looking eyes. It's really interesting. So anyway, so there's like 2 cliques here on the beach, right? The beach is pretty much taken up by the Afro-Caribbeans, the black Costa Ricans, which speak Patois English, which is like what the Jamaicans speak, and which is equally, it's easier for me to understand Spanish than it is, really, honestly. When they speak, they can speak to me in a way in which I can understand, and I can speak to them and they can understand me as well. But when they're speaking to each other, I can't understand a damn thing that they say. I really can't. They speak really fast in that Patois English stuff, and I can't understand it. I can actually understand the Spanish better. And so, but anyway, so I lived there. I arrived there, and the reason I was there is because I had been there on vacation first. And so I was living in this, I'd rented a little place, and I was living on the beach north of town, but I was going every day down south of town to a beach called Cocles, and Punta Uva. Punta Uva is even south of Cocles. And so I was going down, it was like a 10-kilometer motorbike ride. I had a motorcycle, and so I'd go down every day and eat at this Italian restaurant called Arrecife. Arrecife, so I'll try to describe it for you. Imagine a coral reefed beach, a beach with like big coral reef heads, beautiful, crystal clear blue Caribbean Sea. The restaurant was an open air rancho style restaurant where it just had a roof on it. It was just a roof and an open air, and it had one wall on the backside where the kitchen and the bar was, and the bathrooms around back. And then they had 2 sets of cabanas, which were like 4 apartments, 2 downstairs, 2 upstairs, in 2 buildings. So there were 8 apartments there. And I wasn't living there. I was just going down, and I got to be friends with these guys. And there's a huge this is 2006, a huge Italian community there, and they were all gangsters too as well. They were like bank robbers and stuff that were like hidden, And the funny thing is, I asked them one time, I said, how did you get papers here? How do you have like a legal residency here? And he says, you should see my wife. She is so fat. And so what they did is they married like these Indian girls Indian girls that live with their husband, way away, but they married them just to get the papers or whatever. They paid them to marry them. You should see my wife. She is so fat, that he told me. He was a chef there. This great big guy. He's about the same size as I am. Thick, strong, and like for them, he was a giant. And I remember Mario said, for us, Lalo is like a giant, but you are insanely large. You know, and anyway, so this is what happened. So I've been eating there like every day for 3 weeks, and I'd already decided I'm just going to run a tab because I'm going to eat here every day, and I'll pay it once a month. And they were like, cool, and they were happy with me there. And it was a real Italian community. There was like maybe 60 Italians that lived there that all had a business. One was a carniceria, like a butcher shop. Another one had like a little place that sold pizza. Another one had a restaurant. I mean, it was like, and it was just, and every night, all the Italians would come there, and it was very exclusive. If they didn't like you, they wouldn't even let you come. They wouldn't even want you in there. But they accepted me in that crew, and it began a love affair that I've had with the Italian people. I've never once in my life have I ever met an Italian that I didn't just absolutely love. So anyway, one day I was sitting there eating, and my girlfriend was sitting there with me. My American girlfriend was sitting there with me, and we were eating, and I was drinking, always drinking. And I was drinking a bottle of red wine, and I wasn't drunk at all. I didn't even have a buzz yet. I mean, I only had like 2 glasses of wine, but we were eating some fish or something, and it was really good. And I noticed that a car pulled up, and 3 dark-skinned Latinos jumped out of the car, and they run over to Mario, who's my friend. Mario owns them and runs the place. And they push him over in the corner, and they start kicking him and hitting him and screaming at him and shit. And I'm like, no way, man, that ain't going to happen. And my girlfriend's like, don't get involved. I'm like, fuck that shit, you know me. I'm not going to let him hit my friend. And so the other guy, one of the little boss man pulls out a pistol, and he's waving it around, a little Glock. Piece of shit, I don't like Glocks. Anyway, waving it around in the air, screaming. And I'm like, just by the way he's holding the pistol, you don't know nothing about firearms. And so I got up and I walked over there and I asked him where the bathroom was. I walked over and the guy was like looking at me like, you stupid gringo, do you not see that we're busy, you know, with something, like we're doing something illicit here? And I said, ¿Dónde está el baño? Come like really bad Spanish on purpose. And the guy was like, hey man, what are you doing here? And so like he screams at me and he's holding a pistol out to his side. And what I did was I gave him a right cross as hard as I could in the face and just snatched the pistol out of his hand. And now I'm in control. And I chambered the round. I pulled the slide back to see, and there wasn't even a round chambered. I chambered the round and took the safety off. And he starts screaming, I'm going to kill you, in Spanish to me. He's laying on the ground holding his face. And he's like, te voy a matar, maldito gringo. I'm going to kill you, I'm gringo, you fucking gringo. And so I just shot him in the knee. Plow! I just took one of his knees out, and he starts screaming. And he's screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming and holding his leg. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. And he won't shut up. And the other 2 boys are like scared shitless. They're just kind of cowering now. And there's one on either side of Mario. Mario's in the center, and this guy's laying on the ground in front of Mario screaming. And so he starts with that shit again. I'm going to kill you. So I shot his other knee. Plow! I shot him again. Fuck him. And so he's screaming bloody murder. And I told the other 2 boys, I said, he's screaming too much. He's making a racket. This is pissing me off. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Shoo. Go away. Go away, and I won't kill anybody. So they grab him up and they're running for their lives, you know. They grab him up and they throw him in the back of the pickup, blah, blah, and he's screaming, oh God, Dios mío, you know, screaming, and so they drive away. Mario's looking at me like shaking, horribly afraid. And I ejected the magazine. I just pushed the button and let the magazine fall on the ground, and I chambered out the round, you know, I plop, plop, and so now it's empty, and I handed him the pistol handle first, and I said, you might need this, you might want to keep it, because you might need it. And then he scoops up the magazine off the ground, and I gave it to him that way so he would like not be afraid, because I don't know if he knew what I was getting at. And I just went back to the table and sat down. Well, as I was continuing eating, my girlfriend, she was like my wife. She lived with me. And she like rolled her eyes and just kept eating. You know, it's like normal shit with Bill. And I watched. They had a little powwow. There's 3 Italians. You know, the 3 Italians that worked there and run. And Mario owned the place, and the other 2 boys worked for him. They had a powwow. They also sitting around talking. So Mario comes over and he sits down at the table, and Lalo sits down and he puts his hand on my back and he's like, "Thank you very much." And so I said, Mario, what the hell happened? And he said, well, they sold us. They distributed cocaine there in that area, and they sold them 6 kilos, but only 4 of them were real. 2 of them were false. So they paid them for 4 kilos and didn't. And the guys wanted them to pay for the other 2 kilos, but they were like, it was like, I don't know, not cocaine. It was bullshit. And so he's like, I'm not paying. And they tried to give them the kilos back, and the guys were like, no. And so, and I mean, that's how Mario made his money. You know, you can't make money selling beer on the beach in Costa Rica. So, you know, he made his money to have that beautiful place there and have it so nice. That's how he made his money. And these guys are no longer there, so I can tell this story. And I'm using false names as well. The Arrecife was the name of the bar, and that's a real place, actually. That's really the name of the bar. Anyway, so so they sit down and they talk, and they told me this story, and I said, well, be careful so they don't come back, but I don't think they'll come back, but be careful. And he said, we want you to live here. We want you to live with us. And I'm like, no, man, no, that's cool. He's like, no, we'll give you an apartment. He will give it to you. And I'm like, I'll live here, but you got to let me pay rent. And so he let me pay $300 a month to live on an apartment on the beach. And I ran a tab there. And I know many times I would run up a bill of $800-900 a week. And then I would come at the end of the week to pay my bill, and he's like, that is $200. I'm like, fuck that. There's no way it's $200. I drank 6 bottles of booze through the bar and ate 3 meals a day here. How can it be $200? $200. And he wouldn't let me pay any less, And so we would every night that we would had a big screen TV, and back in those days a big screen TV was a big deal, because there weren't big screen TVs much back then in 2006. We had a big screen TV there, and they put on a concert at night, and everybody would be sitting around, all the Italians doing cocaine, because these Italians were from Milan, and I've never met Italians that didn't do cocaine 24/7. They wake up in the morning and have an espresso, and the breakfast is a gram of Colombian Bam Bam, and they're normal, and they don't. It's like I do cocaine, I'm all fucked up, and all 100 miles an hour. They're like normal, it just makes them normal. Anyway, but it was maybe that was one of the most lovely times of my life. I lived there for about 6 months. It all fell apart at the end. Mario got a divorce from his wife, and they lost the bar. And I left when they lost the bar. But that's the story of Arrecife in Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica. This is the first of a series of 3. If you're listening to this now, the other 3 are already out, so check them out as well. This is episode number 1. If you like this series, make sure you like and subscribe. Share the channel with somebody else. Comment on the damn thing. Tell me if you like it, if you didn't like it. The 2nd and 3rd episodes will be out. Well, they're out right now. You can hear them. They're out. If you listen to this, the other ones are out too. Pull the description box down if you'd like to contact me directly. My Instagram and Facebook are there in the description box. You can contact me directly. Also, there's a Wikipedia link in the description box if you want to know more about me. And a link to a book I wrote that's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook called Long Live the King Wild Bill. Buy that damn book. Thanks, guys, for listening. God bless each and every one of you. I love you, and Jesus Christ loves you too.